Journalists are categorized into different types of beats. It's good at the start to have a varied kind of experience so that you get a taste of everything rather than just getting stuck to one thing. So that helps you understand what is your cup of tea, what interests you more. Once you find a specific thing, then try to go deeper into that thing because then you build a knowledge base. When you break a news first, the journalist is remembered as well as the publication is remembered. You want to be on a reader's or a viewer's mind that you were the publication or the journalist responsible for breaking that information. Even after you break it, it's not over. You have to follow up because if it's a big story, there'll be other journalists also going through it and trying to get more information. There are a lot of journalists who have been wrongfully accused for exposing or telling the truth. Police raided their homes and took their laptop, their phone for some frivolous reason. It's sort of an intimidation tactic.
Colin, welcome again for the show.
Hi, Moa. Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you back here. So, to begin with, let's look at the various types of journalism, and from there, we can move on to challenges and the rewards of those specific types of journalism.
Okay. So I think broadly journalists are categorized into different types of beats, topics that they cover. You can be a business journalist, like I do mostly business journalism. So I report on different companies, businesses, the sectors, and financials of those companies. So that's what I look at. Then there's technology journalists. You cover their latest gadgets, like latest mobile phones, the latest laptop, iPads, and things like that. So those are the guys who are into the tech kind of things, who know the details and they know the specifications, what is good, what is not good. Then there are people who do political reporting. So political reporting is reporting about what's happening in the political space, like the parties involved, what are they doing, the government, holding the government responsible for certain things. You can go to crime reporting where people report on crimes. It might be chain snatching kind of incidents to murders. They work with the police departments usually and they get information about it. Then the sports reporting basically puts you cover all sports. There's war reporting. Some people do specific beats. For example, I used to cover automobile at one point in time, telecom at one point in time, and all of these within the business financial reporting sphere, challenges of these kind of beats. I think political reportage, and especially wars, are very difficult to do. I would say war would come on the top of the list of my most dangerous places for journalists to be reporting at, covering, being in the conflict zone, or even being a beat reporter when covering a disaster and being on the front lines. It's dangerous because if you're in a war zone, you can lose your life. We have seen a war happening in Israel and Palestine, and even in the Ukraine war. Journalists have lost their lives over their reporting. But yeah, it also gives us that information, what's happening in a war. If there were no one else reporting it, we wouldn't have any information. A lot of things that happen in war, there are war crimes by soldiers to other soldiers or civilians. It's also the number of people, the deaths that have happened. The reason you get that news is because someone counting the deaths, taking from hospitals. So it's a very vital role for human society. And I think the rewards are, I would say, getting that information out. The public, then there is crime reporting, which is dangerous, I would say. To an extent, many times the criminals want you to be reporting such kind of things. There are cases where journalists get threats and things like that. It's hard to deal with. If you are working with a good publication, they have your back, they would have your support. They usually would tell authorities that, okay, this is something that's happening and they could provide you some protection or at least some surveillance or things like that. But these are things that people need to be aware about. They work closely with the police department. I had some of my colleagues with crime reporting. They used to go to the police station and question the police what happened in the crime, get the details, speak to some more sources about it, and piece together things. They're sort of investigating on their own and putting together what has happened. So it gives people that knowledge. I think that's one of the benefits, keeping people aware about things. Journalists feel that, okay, I am actually doing something, I'm providing safety for other people. I remember a lot of chain snatching used to happen. And because of that coverage, older women and people were aware about chain snatchers and things, and they were like careful in a particular area. And also, police can take action; they can find out things because journalists also would find out information and through speaking through sources and help solve crimes too. Like so, but the whole thing is not about solving; it's about reporting these kind of instances. Financial journalism, people think about it as boring or oh, there's a lot of numbers, but there's like a story behind that numbers. How well a particular business is doing, how well a particular business model is doing. It might be like a flashy new business that's come and you see a lot of these startups coming up with a quick delivery, 10 minutes or 2 minutes delivery. But is it a good business model that's working out? Is this a good business to be investing in? Is this a business that's going to be there in the long run? Or is this like a quick rich kind of a thing? That's the what we look at as financial journalists to inform investors, to founders, to company entrepreneurs. Are these sectors doing well? Are they not doing well? What are the problems in it? What are the challenges in it? Suppose tomorrow you are looking at getting into a particular business and you are thinking of putting your own hard-earned investment into it. So having that information helps you make some informed decisions. So that's, I think, for me, is like telling a story and making someone aware of all these terms and technical things, making it simple so that a person understands the business. So I think that's a rewarding thing. You also understand a lot. I feel like one of the things that keeps a journalist going is the curiosity and to answer unanswered questions. While there's information out there, it's also a skill to make it understandable to a larger audience. Like I think journalists get into particular beats because they like those, they have interest in those kind of areas. Or it might be that they get thrown into it and then they start liking it. I was, for instance, not into so much business reporting or financial journalism, but I got thrown into it. That was my first opportunity. And then I started liking it. I felt like the challenge, but you can tell a good story out of financial numbers. Yeah.
When you join an organization or a
Yeah.
publication, do you get to say, I want to do crime reporting only, or I will only do this?
When you're starting off, you would probably be thrown around in different kind of beats. Editor would probably ask you what your interests are to align giving you something which you might be interested in. Because when you're interested, you understand it more and you put more efforts into it.
Okay, so one person probably will be working on different at the same time, right? They may be working on one article on maybe politics, one could be
Yeah.
on crime, one could be
Yeah.
on something else. So you may have to work on multiple things initially, and then once you grow in your career, you are probably attached to one specific type of
Yeah.
uh, journalism.
Yeah. You find a specialization, no? And it's also good at the start to have a varied kind of experience so that you get a taste of everything rather than just getting stuck to one thing. So that helps you understand what is your cup of tea, what interests you more. And then once you find a specific thing, then stick to it. Then try to go deeper into that because then you build a knowledge base and that knowledge base comes to use when you're writing things. You can see a difference between a senior reporter to someone who's a junior reporter because they know what's happened in that sector for a while. So they can write more deeper analysis pieces. They can connect the dots in the analysis and something which has happened 3 years or 5 years down the line, they can connect it and how it's going to impact recent development.
Okay. When doing these different types of content, do you get to travel?
It depends on what your story is like. So, for example, in business journalism, can be conferences in another location. It might be another country, or maybe your company sends you because it's related to your topic and you have to cover it. So then you travel for reporting. Sometimes companies want some coverage for their company. Okay, and these are called press junkets. Basically, the company flies you down to that location. They might book your flight tickets or your hotel for that one day, whenever that event is, and then fly you back. So that happens for business journalists. Some publications do not like the companies arranging for the stay and the travel. Then they expect you to write a positive kind of thing, and it's construed as a
Paid
paid kind of
article.
coverage. So Many publications would say not over this amount. Some might say no, that we won't do it. We will put the money if required. There's some conference which is attached to our coverage scope, and where we are going to meet a lot of big people from the industry. Then we place a request with the finance department or whatever, and then get an approval. You have travel and leisure kind of reporters, people who are reporting on lifestyle travel. Then definitely you will be traveling a lot. So that's like a very sought after kind of a thing. But I think it all comes down to whether you are the right person for the coverage, whether you will do a good job going there. There's a lot of responsibility also. It's not like fun and games. You have to do a job at the end of the day. You have to find a good story there to report back. Because when you go for your press junket, the company which is inviting you will try to influence your article and try to get a more positive kind of a article for themselves. So those are some of the traps that you can get into. Like, if it's positive, yes, you can report it's positive. But if it's not, you have to try to establish the true picture of what is happening, of what the company is about. And that's the reason why you are sent there. And that's the responsibility as a journalist, to find the good story, find the truth, answer all those questions.
And does it kind of weigh positively on your resume if you traveled for different assignments?
No, not really. At the end of the day, the article counts, what came out of it.
Okay. So, in terms of competition, so I understand that there's fierce competition in the newsrooms specifically to get their story published.
Hmm.
Could you share some inputs on that?
Yeah, there's always competition. There will be so many other publications which are in the same level, competing in the same space. Everyone wants to get the news. That's why you always see this breaking news, and everyone wants to get the news first. They want to get exclusive coverage, which no one else has. That's always the thing. The term used by journalists is getting a scoop. So if you get a scoop, meaning and you get it first and you're breaking that news, it's every journalist's dream and aspirational thing where journalists aspire to break some news ahead of any other publication. When you break a news first, the journalist is remembered as well as the publication is remembered. You want to be on a reader's or a viewer's mind that you were the publication or the journalist responsible for breaking that information. Even after you break it, it's not over. You have to follow up, because if it's a big story, there'll be other journalists also going through it and trying to get more information. It's a two-edged story. Like, while you want to get it first, you have to get it accurate also. Accuracy is more important. Sometimes publications kind of rush the gun and put it for press before the information is clear, and then you find out that it's false. You have to think about the whoever you're writing about it. For example, if you're writing about an entrepreneur's business, that one news story can make or break a business. If you write about something positive, it actually elevates the company, it gets more business, it gets more clients and things like that. But if you write something negative, it also can lead to a lot of damage for that person, company, politician, whatever it is. In political reporting, it causes a lot of damage to parties' prospects of coming to power, or candidates' prospects of coming to power. So you have a lot of responsibility as a journalist. And in this competition of breaking and trying to get the news out first, I think sometimes journalists fail to do some of the basic things of verifying the facts.
Do you have this competition of my article gets published, I get the front page news article and all that?
Yeah, it happens a lot in newspapers, I think, because there are so many beats over there, people. So the business journalists will say, "Oh, this story I've done, it should be the first page coverage." But in the end, the editor in chief will decide which is the first page story and which is a second page story, or whatever it is, So I think there is a lot of competition there also, and that's healthy competition. I think it's essential for journalists to also have a good level of competition amongst themselves within a publication, to get like a good storyline, to get a good byline and get something out. In broadcast, it happens where prime time, usually 9 o'clock is your prime time. Right now, a lot of debate shows happen, but earlier you would try to get your story spoken about in the prime time. But I think digital, it's fairly, there's no pages or there's no prime time kind of thing. So everyone can publish their stories at a time, but still there's a competition. Like, you want to do better than probably another team that you're working with, or you would want to get a higher amount of subscribers. Like, for example, you want your story to be read by a lot of people. So there's a lot of healthy competition. I think that's fine. It's very good to get that healthy competition. Yeah, there's also teamwork that's involved. For example, if you get news about some big story and you require help, you shouldn't be like, I want to do it alone. And if time constraints are there when you need to get a news out quickly before it's broken by someone else, you need to get other journalists involved and work as a team to break a story. Like, and that way, it's much better in a faster way. Like there's one person who tackling and getting some information from here, some person getting some information, and you put together stories. I've worked on a lot of collaborative projects and worked with a lot of other journalists. And I feel like that's like a better approach. There's the International Consortium of Journalists. If you remember the Panama Papers and things like that, which came out basically, so this International Consortium of Journalists sort of got documents from a source of who all own accounts over there, all these for tax saving purposes. And then they collaborated with different publications all over the world and different journalists. So each journalist was given documents from people belonging to their country, and then they could break that story. So they worked in a collaborative way to do that. In the end, getting out the information is key for a journalist. So working collaboratively has its advantages, like I say. Yeah.
And how does ethics come into picture? I'm sure there are many ways you can get influenced by powerful people.
Yeah. Everyone wants a good coverage of themselves. No one wants you to write anything negative or but as a journalist you have to write the truth. Companies would say you would travel or try to give you gifts. They would give you some free complimentary things, or even at conferences they give you something extra and in a way of bribing you to write something positive. There are publications that have like, what can you take and what can you not take. I feel that's good to have because then journalists has clarity about it. There are many publications that don't have it, so then there's no clarity where what's right and what's wrong. Like I think if it's small value kind of food items, because it's very hard to return it within a short time to the person who was sent it. But if it's a valuable item which is not perishable, it can be returned back. So many publications choose to return back thing, or if it's not returnable and there's no address, they donate it. Yeah, the ethics is a big thing. You have to be true to yourself and write and what is the truth. Stick to the facts. Some of the ethics that journalists should follow is giving an opportunity to both the sides of the story, whoever you're writing about, give them that opportunity to respond to your story. Like at sometimes like they might refuse to respond or they might not respond, but at least you do your due diligence of reaching out via different mediums, not just sending an email, not just sending a text. Send like multiple messages. If it's a very important story and a small thing, maybe you can give like 24 hours. But if it's more, it requires a lot of questions and a lot of more responses. Give them more than 24 hours or like 48 hours, like to respond and prepare. Then send questions to them so that they know what questions you are going to ask them. So then they can prepare if they have to get evidence or give some documentation to prove what they are saying, then they should be able to do that. So these are the ethics you should follow. I feel many journalists today do not have that empathy. They just want to get the thing out, and it comes at not giving much time to for the other party to respond. People have the right to deny things or whatever it is, but you have to give them an opportunity. It's a different fact if they don't respond, but you should give an adequate opportunity.
There have been instances of paid coverages, right?
Yes.
And in fact, big names in the industry, like journalists who were involved in it, it came out in the open, and it wasn't very good to hear that way.
Yeah.
So, see, if you want to walk that path, take bribes, gifts, or get into a conflict of interest situation, it might not eventually work for you in the long run. Somewhere down the line, you'll be exposed, and it won't be a very pleasant situation at that time.
Yeah, there are a lot of journalists who have been caught. You have to have strong willpower in terms of saying no, and because eventually the truth will come out some way or the other, and then it's your reputation and your whole career that's going to be tarnished. You're going to be known for that.
Yeah, so next time you are reporting something, people will take it with a pinch of salt. That
no one will believe what you're saying is the truth. Even if you're saying the truth or putting something which is actually right.
There are times when you need your team to support you, especially when you're in a disturbing situation because of the powerful people. For example, if you are into political analysis kind of a situation, or you are doing crime reporting, there are powerful people who might put you in trouble. You may even have to go to jail. There are journalists who have been
Yeah,
put behind bars, and for years, some of them
yeah.
unnecessarily. There's a distance between those people who are suffering versus the entire
Hmm.
community at large. Is there a truth to that statement?
There are a lot of journalists who have been wrongfully accused because they have told the truth and people in power. They don't like when you question authorities, so they use their power in a bad way, and journalists live in jails for exposing or telling the truth for years. But I feel the journalist community that comes together, the press club is there. Recently itself, when journalists were wrongfully accused or the police raided their homes and took their laptops, their phone and things for some frivolous reason. The community of journalists, especially press club, came out in support and gave them a forum where all journalists actually protested against it. Like there's also like international bodies who support journalists. Some provide even legal experts because people put cases against journalists. It's very common. It's sort of an intimidation tactic because then the journalist has to spend for lawyers' fees, and these cases go on for a long time. It's very expensive affair. If you are from a good publication, publications have a legal team which gives you protection. For example, I'm talking about my own organization. We have a legal team. If there's any case that comes against a story that we did, the legal team will take it, tackle it. Many of these cases usually are settled out of court. They just do it to intimidate the journalist or the publication. Some publications have insurance against cases, so they recover their legal fees. So international organizations provide some of these things for journalists who might not have that backing from their organization, because not every publication might have resources to have a legal team. Every journalist would likes to feel safer as a journalist, and that you can do your job if you know that your back was covered by your organization. That tomorrow, even if you write the truth and you put out that information in public, and even if you get a case against you or threats, that at least you have some support from your organization, and it's not like that you're left to fend for yourself. But yeah, a threat can still be there. That's up to you to, as a journalist, how you would deal with it. It's always good to disclose such kind of information to your editor, your seniors, that, okay, if you are facing intimidation from a particular party, like, or a particular organization, what is always good to share that, because when you share that information, people can take action, can notify authorities or reach out to the right people in those circumstances. There are organizations internationally that the journalists can reach out to, but you have to reach out.
You have a lot of women in journalism. How convenient or inconvenient it is for women to be in that role, operate as a journalist?
I have been fortunate to work with a lot of women in journalism, and I reported to editors also who are women. I think it's a difficult job in some instances. It's a little bit demanding. Because I think gender bias happens. I mean, people don't say that. For example, there's conferences which are late. In some places, they might say like send a male reporter to cover it. In large publications, they allow both men and women to cover things. But so you need to have that flexibility, because sometimes there's events that are late. Some publication might not arrange for pickup drop. Sometimes people get done late, and it's like post 12, 1 o'clock that you're returning home. But in cities like Mumbai, there is still transport and there's cabs. People might not have that, like in smaller towns and stuff, But that said, like, I think there are many publications that do support women. For example, provide this midnight drop if you're working till late, so that you don't have to rely on public transport at the late hours and be stuck in odd places. A lot of organizations and editors would brief how women can operate in those kind of things, and be aware of whatever the situation is. For example, not be alone at one point in time in a particular room, like if it's late in MC conferences, with especially a male guest. I think the willpower of these women and journalists is a lot. They're able to go above and beyond that. It's incredible to see that.
So even in field reporting, I don't think that's a very comfortable.
It's crowded. It's not something where a woman would be comfortable with. I feel like women have still gone beyond working in this condition and given good reporting and such good coverage. It's admirable, like what efforts women have to go through to on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's true. So much for
Yeah.
doing what you like to do. The print version of newspapers that used to be circulated, let's say 10 years ago, the count has reduced drastically. And does it have an impact on the jobs of people?
It does have an impact because people are not buying newspaper. There's certain amount of revenue that comes in because of advertising revenue. When you're not buying, the circulation numbers drop, then the advertising rates also drop. So it impacts the job. But now publications are not dependent on only selling newspapers. They are there online too. But that's also more of advertising driven model. So it depends on how many people view your articles. So people are now going towards subscription models where they ask the reader to pay for a yearly subscription or a quarterly subscription. They're called paywall content. So you can just see the headline and the first paragraph of the article, and then you have to pay to read the whole article. A lot of people subscribe for that, and that's good. But a publication cannot survive on just subscriptions or people buying the newspaper. Publication depend on a couple of different things like subscriptions as well as advertising revenues as well as events for that matter. A lot of publications do events and they get sponsors for those events. So it is a tough business. It's not a business which earns a lot of profits and revenues per quarter or per year. So journalism is not an easy business. It's more like a philanthropic business, I would say. There are now methods to make it profitable and make it independent. Only when it's independent will actually journalism thrive. And it depends on people paying for it. The thing. We have been used to getting news for free, and it is not never free. It is paid by advertisers. It's paid by businesses. They try to influence the news. Then you have to depend on the media owner to have that sort of gumption to stick to the guns and be truthful, or have a business where you support it. It's okay for publications to advertise and do advertorials. A lot of advertorial content is there, but I feel there has to be a clear demarcation of what is advertorial content and what is editorial content. It shouldn't be the journalists who are reporting on things, writing the advertorials. They have to be a marketing or a content people who are writing the advertorials separately. Like so, people put nowadays use the phrase partnership content or things like that. So you know that it's not done by a journalist; it's a paid endeavor. Native advertising, what the term is used actually, and many publications earlier used to not put this thing as native advertising or paid content or partnership content, and that's wrong. You're taking paid, and even if it's done by a non-editorial person, not a journalist, putting it, not terming it as that is I feel an ethical dilemma. But be that is as it may, like I think native advertising is required because it's sustainable. It's somewhere people contribute and they want things to be written about it, and you can put it as a paid content and people can know about it. But I think it helps in giving different avenues for journalism to flourish.
So, in terms of job security, if newspapers are following different business models,
It's easier. I think it's more
yeah.
safer. COVID taught us one thing: advertising suddenly disappeared for publications. There were a lot of layoffs at that point in time, and even now also, for example, in the US, there are a lot of layoffs happening of journalists from Washington Post, even TechCrunch. There were layoffs because it was dependent more on advertising and advertorial content kind of thing, less on subscriptions. I feel like job security is not ensured with places which depend on just one or two streams of revenue. It can be at any point in time, like in COVID shutdown, businesses were not doing well. Then you're not getting advertising revenue. So it was those publications which were had subscription kind of plans which were doing well.
And let's say a journalist who primarily works for print media, do the same journalist also work for digital media at the same time?
Yeah, nowadays they do. Nowadays they do. Like
Colin, what interested you into journalism?
actually initially wanted to get into advertising. I did my bachelor's in mass media and then I majored in advertising and stuff at that point in time. But when I got into advertising, I didn't really like it. It was not my cup of tea in terms of writing copies for brands and trying to sell brands because there was a lot of back and forth with these things and creative kind of processes, which I didn't really like. And they wanted more shorter, crisper things. You require to write like spot headlines and things. That was not me. Like I wanted to write more, and I liked writing longer copies. I liked anything in writing. So when I did my masters at one in I majored in journalism at that point in time. I went away from advertising and I thought, let me give it a shot. And I started liking writing reports and writing features and longer pieces. And that got me into sort of the journalism sphere. And then I looked at jobs in journalism. And the first role I got was in a magazine where I reported as a feature writer, and that sort of got me curious about financial reporting. I think the second job was very interesting as I got to learn about something new every day, and that interested me a lot. Like because at the start of the day, I was given a topic, or or maybe I found out some topic, some industry which I didn't know about. But within a day or 2 days, I would do so much of research, speak to so many people that I got so much of knowledge and insight, and I could write a story about it. I found that fascinating, telling a story of numbers, business terms in simple words that even a layperson can understand. What does it mean? How does it impact that audience or that industry? I feel that that's something which I found very empowering or something which I really like. I've seen a lot of people leave journalism. Unfortunately, journalism is not a highest paying job. In fact, journalists in India, I think, are grossly underpaid. And that's the reason why a lot of people shift from journalism to other sectors. Like they go to PR and mostly they will jump into corporate communication or PR. It's more like a very fulfilling and value kind of a job that you have to have some reason for sticking around like in journalism or else all the more reason why like, readers need to pay for journalism, like subscribe for things because it pays to keep the lights on in a newsroom, keeps to pay the bills of the people. Many of them who have left journalism. I think they would have stayed stuck around in journalism for a longer time if they would have been paid better. So yeah, the biggest problem is pay, and people want free news. Journalists require a lot of efforts and a lot of encouragement from readers. And the way you can do that is like taking a subscription, like and supporting journalists. I feel like everyone, when they see a good story, they feel that the truth needed to be out there. If people pay for that and support, and they can survive and they can pay their salaries. A lot of publications are struggling. Subscriptions also sometimes are down. Those who can at least should support because if journalism dies, then you're just 24/7 PR and everyone has good coverage, everything is fine. If people are happy with that, then fine. All journalists will go into some other fields. But I hold hope that there are people who want the truth, who want journalism to survive. So they are supporting the
Are, if you have to name five topmost learnings that you have had from your journey?
five learnings. I would say one is, I think, first having empathy. I would say, like, as a journalist, not being headstrong and like sometimes having your own opinion. And I think trying to go by the facts and not by opinion, trying to have empathy and give a other person to speak because you're here to listen as a journalist. You, I think, to hear the stories and tell the story in the most truthful manner, like and give that information. So I think having empathy and having listening to someone else is very important. I think one of the key lessons I learned. Secondly, is going on by data and facts. Like, don't. It's very easy to make your own opinions and assumptions and bring your bias into it. But if it's not an opinion piece, substantiate your thing. Like, get information out there, get facts, substantiate. So get the evidence, like, and then tell your story. Then okay, then people, and makes it more believable also if you're giving it on that. I think one thing is like be open to making mistakes. I mean, you'll make mistakes. I've made mistakes. I might be making mistakes now also, but admitting that okay, you're wrong. I've made a mistake. Learning from that, saying yeah, and that makes you a better journalist. I would say being curious is one more lesson I learned. I think that's the main thing. I think any journalist should have. Like, if you're not curious enough, then you will not find the answers to the truth, or you will not want to dig anything. You won't want to put in your effort into anything. I'm always curious about why something matters or why something should be told. Even when you're telling a story, it's okay to just come up with some headline for it. But why are you telling this? Like, is it a story really required? Last would be, I think, accuracy or perfection. Like, try to get the story as accurate as possible. Um, I think that's something which every journalist should aspire to, tell the story in a good way, in an accurate way. It's a lesson which I've learned. I have missed information, and then some company tells me, "Oh, okay, Collin, so and so, fact, you got it wrong. You missed this information. It was not accurate." So I understood from that feedback. And next time I put that into place, okay, that sticks to my head. Like, I will just never make that mistake again. So I think accuracy is something always journalists should aspire to and get. I think these are some things which are curiosity, accuracy, empathy, hearing, listening, and ability to take feedback. I would say that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
You have
Moa.
generously shared your experience with us. With this, we conclude episode 9, Launching Your Career as a Journalist. I sincerely hope you found today's conversation both interesting and informative. Your thoughts and comments are invaluable to us. If you have any questions or seek further insights, please don't hesitate to drop us a message. Your engagement helps guide our content direction. To support you in your journey of becoming a journalist, or if you're looking to enhance your writing skills, we have included a few links to free courses that can help you along the way. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please hit the like button and share it with friends, colleagues, or anyone who might benefit from our discussion. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to receive notifications of upcoming episodes as soon as they are released. Stay tuned for more exciting content on careers related to writing. Thank you once again for tuning in. Have a wonderful day ahead.